talk, real talk, real talk, real talk, real talk.
Welcome to Real Talk for Real Teens, the show where we uniquely combine the information teens need with the entertainment teens want.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Real Talk for Real Teens. This is Kim Creighton, as always, here to share some information with you. And my guest this evening, is Stanley Yorker. Stanley, introduce yourself to my audience and tell them what you're here to talk to them about.
Certainly. Hi, Kim. My name's Stanley Yorker, and I'm a creative director at Global Q. Global Q is a multicultural advertising agency, and we work on a lot of known clients. We deliver their messages to audiences, multicultural audiences such as African American, Asian, Latino, LBGT, and different niche audiences. In addition to being a creative director, I'm also a managing partner at AtlantaBlackStar.com. It's an online news and information lifestyle site that's catering to the African perspective across the African diaspora. And in addition to those two things, I keep busy by being a minister, a New Thought minister at In Spirit Truth Center. And we are a young ministry that caters to the urban, inspirational, metaphysical lifestyle. So got a lot of different things going on, but all of them sort of center around one thing, and that is words, the delivery of words. As a creative director, I am a copywriter. I write the ads. I think of the words that are used, the sounds, the music. In Atlanta Black Star, I help to write the ads and the articles that appear. And as a minister, of course, I have to write my lesson sermons and also daily inspirations that I deliver online. So, again, the crux of my job is considering the words. And that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, and that is a skill that is ageless, but a skill that will also be timeless, a skill that will be necessary today and tomorrow, because it's something that we all need, and that is oral and written communications, how we write and present and how we share our ideas with others. So that's what I'm here to talk about with you today, Kim.
All right, and as you just told us about yourself, I can understand why written communication is such an important thing for you, because in your many hats, you wouldn't have those hats if you weren't able to effectively communicate in written form, particularly in advertising and with the website.
Indeed.
So tell us what your definition of effective communication skills in writing are. How do you define that?
Effective communications are being able to share your point and have the other person understand them. Now, they don't necessarily have to agree with them or accept them, but they at least have to understand the argument, the idea, the concept that you're putting forward in order to give it a fair evaluation.
Okay. So, and you want to specifically talk about writing. So tell me, outside of, we know that's your job and that's the title you have, why should young people care about writing? Because they're really that's one major area they are struggling in.
Yes, indeed.
And it's not just young people. A lot of people are struggling in writing. And so why is that important? Why is that message such an important one for you?
And that in particular is why I wanted to address it, because I've seen a decline in writing and literacy and the ability to communicate thoughts in a succinct and concise way, in a way that makes sense. And part of it is because we've gotten lazy. We all text, we all do shorthand, and we start abbreviating and we start making up ways to spell things that aren't the orthodox way of doing so. And so we get into that habit, and before long we've forgotten how to actually spell some simple words. We think through is THRU, rather than THROUGH. So we start these shorthands, and before long, the shorthand becomes the norm. Now, there's in general nothing wrong with the language adapting or evolving over time. We've seen that. The Old English is not how we speak. We don't say these and thou. So there's a part of that is a natural progression. But right now we got to the point where it's such a bastardization that our thoughts can't be effectively communicated. And once that happens, that becomes an issue or a problem. And having the ability to write well is a distinguisher. It's a separator. For people, young people who are out there looking to advance, to get their thoughts out, to apply for college, put in applications. So much of it is essay for their first job. Writing skills can be a key determinant if they are accepted or if they're hired, and any of these things that separate them from the masses of those who struggle with this skill.
The point you made, I'm glad you made it. It was you said that language changes, writing changes. It's inevitable. It happens over time. What is the difference is you still want to be understood. So
correct.
When you use THRU as opposed to THROGH, that's a different meaning. And so
right.
it may sound the same, but it has a different meaning to it. And so you're not, especially if it's in writing, when you say it to somebody, no one can see, in your head which one you're talking about. We take it in the context of the sentence framework, the context clues or whatever. But when you're writing something, it's very visual, and
yes.
It becomes very evident when you're understanding it well, when your words don't adequately or effectively communicate what you're trying to say.
Absolutely.
And it gets in your way. And I want could you give us an example of how you use how writing is a part of your day on a daily basis? Because we talk about copywriting, we talk about whatever, but I want to give true examples of what you mean by, and make you really a good sense of how writing, how big a part of it. And it's just not in advertising, as what we're talking about. That's your field, but it's in so many different fields. And I just want to give an example of how every day, day in, day out, writing is a part of your life.
Just about everything we do. We wake up and first thing we do is we check our smartphones, our tablets, our pads, and we go through our emails. And that pretty much sets the tone and agenda for the day. So with those emails, we have to respond and reply, and many times either we're copied individually or a part of a group. And so sometimes we're CC'd on distributions, and there are people on there who have no idea who we are personally, other than what we communicate by our written word. So just the turn of a phrase that you use, the words that you use, your syntax, your grammar, all those things are forming an impression of you even before anyone ever meets you. So email is a huge part of my day. That's the main method of communication. As a matter of fact, these days, more often than not, information will be communicated to me via email as opposed to a telephone call. So
and I find myself, because that's true, spending a lot more time crafting my emails than I would if I was in a conversation with someone, either by phone or in person. I've gotten to the habit that I'm very specific. I'll draft the email 2 or 3 times just to make sure what I'm saying clearly states what I'm saying, because I'm not there for them to see my facial expression, my body language, any of those things.
That's right, because if you use all caps, they may think you're yelling at them for some reason.
Exactly.
And they may feel some type of way about that.
Exactly. Or if you use different colors. Can you imagine receiving an email in all caps in red?
Right. Then why the anger? Why are you scolding me?
Exactly. And there are some, and so it becomes more imperative.
Because you lose cues, visual cues, you increase the likelihood of miscommunication. I've had examples where I've communicated something totally tongue-in-cheek and the other person took it as literal. Missed the humor of it because I wasn't there to smile at them after I said it.
And I've stopped doing that. Unless it's somebody who really knows me and knows that that's my humor, I don't even do that anymore. I might start an email just to get it out, or text just to get that part out, that smart little, that sarcastic part out, and then after I've crafted the email, I go back and erase that part because at least I said it, but then I remove it.
That's a very wise thing to do. Because the other is the permanence of it. Like with most other media, we speak it and it's lost, it's gone. Unless they recorded the call, it's hard to go back and recall precisely what was said. So, but with an email, you can always dig it back up. It's easy to search and find it. Even with the letter, old school letters, they were handwritten. They probably got filed away or tossed. But with an email, something that's in a digital format, once it's out there, it's out there. And even if you delete it, it's still somewhere. Somebody can still recover it. We've seen that countless times with trials and, people trying to erase their text messages, and law enforcement is able to pull them back up. We've seen people who posted things on their social networks and social media accounts, and regrettably, schools, when they're looking to check out applicants, they may go there and see something that they wish they might not have posted in another state of mind. So that's one of the things, the permanence of the media makes it especially critical that you go back through and make sure your words are communicating precisely what you intended.
With that, we're going to take our first short break, and then we'll be right back to continue this conversation.
All right.
Follow us on Facebook at Real Talk for Real Teens and on Twitter at RTFRT Radio.
Okay, welcome back, guys. I have Stanley Yorker, and we're talking about communication skills, and specifically, we're talking about writing skills. One of the things that I've discovered just in the last year of meeting with college professors and business owners and managers and supervisors, and specifically with the new Common Core of all young people being college and or career ready upon graduation. The writing skills are paramount when you're, like you said, you're looking for scholarships, you're looking for, you're filling out a job application, and a lot of it is not about, what do I want to say? It's not about just what you write, it's how you write it. And just like on an application, you wouldn't use pencil. You wouldn't use red ink. There are a lot of things that, honestly, I don't think we even talk about anymore, that we just knew were a sign of you being professional, of you, even if you didn't know what you were talking about. It appeared that you had some level of confidence in what you were doing.
And I think that's a great point, because so much of what you're trying to evaluate when you're just looking at an application or just looking at a form or an essay or something where you have even less of a context, you don't have the person in front of you to explain what was intended, you have to make snap judgments very quickly. And so you're evaluating that person on, are they professional? What have they been exposed to? How much training will I have to bring them along? Will they represent me in a way or in a manner that is consistent with our institution or our firm? They make all these decisions very quickly, and if you have anything that becomes a red flag, that gives them a reason to cast you out, because they have more applications than they have positions. So they're looking more so for things that disqualify you as opposed to things that qualify you initially. And then once they've gone through that first selection and culled it down, then they begin to look at those things that help you stand out even more. So don't give them any reason to toss you aside on your first impression.
Could you talk about, because you talked about copywriting, we've talked about scholarships, applications. I'm looking up right now while we're speaking, because I want kinds of writing, because as we said, there is no difference. There's nothing wrong with how you communicate or write in a text message. We're not saying that there's something wrong with that. There's a time and a place for that, and that's where I think the disconnect comes. So it's not saying, because in my text message you only get so much space, just like on Twitter. So I don't spell Y-O-U. I put you.
Right.
So that you know that I'm saying you or you are. But there's just like,
and that's perfectly that's place appropriate.
Exactly.
That's time and place appropriate.
Explain
and the great thing about copywriting is the act of writing anything that's going to be used for a commercial purpose in an ad, whether it's print, radio, online, television. Those are the words that are said in there. And there are many times when we actually intentionally use language that is more colloquial, more conversational, because it is more true to a dialogue or a conversation. And that is our intention, to more precisely capture that. So we may, use very conversational language or bad grammar, but we're doing it intentionally in order to connect or be a part of a consumer's conversation, how they would normally talk. But when we are presenting the idea and we have to describe what it's about and the concept around it and how it will be executed, all those things have to be in standard English and written very professionally, so that the client that we're presenting to, who may not be a part of the target lifestyle and more likely is not a part of that target lifestyle, would also have to be able to grasp and understand the concept and language that is relatable to them, that is of a professional standard, that anyone within an organization can understand what's going on with it.
And I just looked up professional writing, and so professional writing is also known as technical writing. Involves use of clear language to convey information in a way that is easily understood by the intended audience. Individuals who can use language well may be employed as full-time professional writers in a variety of communication-related occupations, such as journalists, web content managers, marketing, advertising, copywriters, public relations, account executives. And I just want to give you just an idea of some of the fields. So we're not just talking about, you need to write a book. You need to be writing poetry. You need to be writing certain things. Writing is everywhere. So they have 5 things listed. In law, you have to write case studies, briefs, and client correspondence. In marketing, there's advertising / copywriting. There's market analysis you have to do. There's proposals you have to write. In science and engineering, there's journal writing, technical reports, and grant proposals. The retail guys, people who are talking about being in fashion and all this other, there's inventory reporting and damage reporting. In the entertainment field, there's recording contracts. There's project proposals. There's reviews. There's website authorization, authoring, and magazines and books. So, and this is a very short list of the industries that rely on writing. And it goes back to what Stanley was saying, is like writing is everywhere. So I don't want them to come and walk away with, because they're always like, I don't
want to be a writer. Right, yeah.
Exactly. I'm just hanging with my friends. That's how I talk when I'm with. No, I demonstrated that that's the only way you talk with your friends, because I've seen you talk to other people that way. And now you've demonstrated that that's how you write as well. And there's a difference between how you write in a text message and then how you write in a letter, in an email, in a law firm, whatever. And those are the skills you need to learn. Basic writing, as it says, to make it convey information in a way that's easily understood by the intended audience. But then you have to know the audience, because as Stanley was saying, in advertising, it's copywriting. He would not use that same language unless it was appropriate in a courtroom. So there's different ways
to write. That is the key, understanding your audience. That is the key. Who are you writing? What
Yeah,
action
who you
do
writing?
you want them to affect? What are you
Yes.
looking to happen as a consequence of your communication with them? Do you want them to consider you? Do you want them to hire you? Do you want them to form an opinion? Do you want them to vote for a candidate? Do you want them to buy a product? Do you want them to stop their dog from barking? Do you want them to, give you some money for a scholarship? What is it that you want out of them? Who is it you're talking to? And allow those factors to help you craft your message and your communication. Do you want this person to go out with you on a date? I don't know if you guys even date anymore. It's all about hooking up. But what do you want to happen as a consequence of the note, the letter, the email, the text, or whatever you're sending out?
And it goes. You threw me off with that hooking up thing. So I apologize. I think about that too. Do they even go on dates, or do everybody just goes to kickbacks and chill, with a group of people, and whatever happens, happens?
But even then, if you have better skills at communicating, that lets whoever you're interested in know you got some game too. Exactly. So it's all for a purpose.
And also, I wanted to make sure I spoke on writing is not. How long does it take you to write a copy? How many drafts? Let's ask you that. On something you're working on right now, how many drafts would it take you?
There's no set number. It could take umpteen, or it can take a couple. It all depends on how well formed the idea comes to you. But generally, it takes multiple, because you're not only writing for yourself. There are levels of approval that you go through. You may write something and you submit it to, a supervisor, and they may have an opinion or a change on it. The account team, they may have a different insight or perspective from the client. The client itself you present to, you may go through several layers. The first one gives their opinion on it. Some new thing that happened that doesn't even affect. It's not even based on whether they like the idea or not, but there's some new technical specification that needs to be included that has to go in there. It goes to another round of approval. It may go through legals, and they say that something that you wrote may tend to be misleading, so can you reword that or rephrase it in some type of way? And on and on. If it's commercial, it may be submitted to the networks. They may have an issue with some claim that you make in there, and you may have to revise that. So, as I say, it can go through multiple iterations before it ever is finally produced. And then once it is produced, you write something called the as-produced script, because you recognize that can be a great deal of variance from what was presented and sold as to what was ultimately produced, because many times you're sitting there in the studio and something that you wrote is just too long for the 30 seconds that you have to work with it. So you start trimming and cutting and altering and editing to communicate substantially the same thing, but you may have to shave 3 to 5 seconds off or something, and that's a huge amount of time when you're dealing with finite media, because it has to be exactly 30 seconds or exactly 15 seconds. There's no leeway there. So you make some calls on the spot. So everything changes all the time. That's like our lives. Our lives are iterative. We work on them, we trim, we perfect, and we keep working on it all the time.
And that's why I wanted to bring that up, because I find that so many young people, first of all, if I spend that much time crafting a text or email, but I'm doing something longer than that, it takes a lot of drafts. I have a lot of people's eyes look at it. And I don't take it personally when they say, what are you trying to say here? That's the wrong word, or that sentence doesn't sound, that's not what that's not the message I'm getting from it. And so I brought that up just so you young people can understand, drafting is a part of life. Don't think it has to be done in one fell swoop. Sit down, plan your ideas out, and then do a first draft with the understanding that, hey, I'm going to have to do this again.
I think we get to the point that we all get to the point we want to be like Jay-Z and just spit it off the top of our head and say we don't have to write it down, and But I'm sure even Jay, without writing it down, he's gone over it many, many times in his head to make sure it's right.
Oh yeah, and you go to a cipher. They know ahead. They practice and they know the skill well enough to know what they can and what they cannot do. It's improv, but it's
Right.
still well trained, well rehearsed. So we'll take our next little last little break, and then when we come back, I want you to give us your 3 tips for young people on communication in general, and then I don't know how you have it, but communication as a broad, and then specifically writing. So we'll be right back.
New or unknown music artists, we need you for the show. If you'd like your own mini concert, please send a request for information to realtalkforrealteens@gmail.com.
All right, guys, we've been talking to Stanley Yorker about a very broad topic of of communication, and very specifically writing skills, those writing communication skills. So to give us tips that you would like to share.
Sure. And I think it really just covers over some of the things that we've talked about in the body of the conversation. But first thing is order. Organize your thoughts and have them, whether it's an outline or is some sort of structure to where you want to go, the key points that you want to communicate. So you have some sort of opening, a closing, and a middle, and some sort of closing. I've heard it say that you tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them, so that you sort of reinforce what it is that you're trying to communicate. Especially in advertising, there's a very finite period of time, so you have to be succinct. We have something that's called a USP, a unique selling proposition, or the key message. Each commercial should have one key message, because in that period of time, you don't have a lot of time to communicate. Same thing with anything else. Think focused, what it is, and strategically, what it is that you want to have happen, and then organize to support that. As Kim said, to rewrite, draft, revisions. Know that it's probably not perfect the first time. You might be one of those one-take wonders, but more than likely, it's not going to be right the first time, and not to take it personally. Use it as something that helps you to grow, and that hopefully the fifth time you've done it, it's even better than the first time that you've done it, and it is a better communication. Rewrite. You're going to have the same thing happen in your life. You may have several times where you have to shift, adjust, somebody moves your cheese, and you have to re-identify who it is you are, what you want to do, change of major, change of career, change in relationship, change of clothes, change of habit, change of heart. We all constantly changing, so don't take it personally. And then have a point of view, have a perspective. And that's ultimately what people will pick up your writing for. They want to think about something in a new way. I like to say to think a new thought. They want to consider it from a different perspective, and that's what we do in advertising. We serve up something that's mundane, a sale at Kroger. You serve it up in a way that it is something that it sounds exciting and that you actually want to be there and participate and be a part of it. The new phone that came out, you want to present it in a way that it feels like something that you have to have, or you're missing out on something if you don't have it. Same thing when you're communicating in your writing. Have a point of view or perspective, whether it's a blog. That's what you come to blog writers for. A lot of times they may violate all the rules of grammar, but they have a clear, particular point of view that they're articulating. That may even compensate for any of those other violations. So know what it is, organize, know what it is you want to say, be prepared to rewrite, and have a strong point of view that communicates and separates you from the masses. These are my tips for you, and you do these, and I think you'll have a successful writing skill.
Well, thank you very much, Stanley. This has been most helpful, and thank you for taking the time out to give your insight into the 21st century skills that young people will need to be successful as they move from high school to college to work. And writing is a part of everything we do, and so thank you for bringing that to the fore. Have a wonderful day.
Oh, you're very welcome, and all you guys have wonderful lives. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for listening, and join us every Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for more Real Talk for Real Teens. Thank you for listening, and join us every Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for more Real Talk for Real Teens.